There we go. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Today, identity, to prove identity, it's very, very challenging. People use data, they use knowledge-based authentication, they use out-of-wallet questions, but the reality is none of that stuff is working. It's not working very well at all. Identity fraud is the #1 crime in the world, has been for 8 years in a row. It's been the #1 consumer complaint in the world here in the United States for 12 years in a row. The fact is, in fraud, 65% of all fraud is identity related. I think if you look at last year's stats, it's pretty good evidence that from my previous statement that current solutions just plain don't work. In 2012, new account frauds were up 52%. Account takeover frauds were up 53%. I just read the CFIUS report last week. It says that new account frauds have already doubled last year's to date this year. Today we're going to show you some solutions that actually do work, and they think we work far more effectively with a lot less friction to the consumer. First is Picture ID, which gives you real-time access to all the document issuers in the United States and Canada. Our second solution is global in scope. We're able to prove identity on anybody in the world, which is something that data brokers can't due to data privacy export laws. So Catfish ID, I guess we're going to start out with that one first. What happened? We've lost some slides here, folks. Okay. We'll just go right into it. So Catfish ID is our global solution. There we go. Good. So Catfish ID, we're going to take an ID. Let's say a consumer came into your bank, they wanted to open up a new account. First thing you're going to ask for is their ID. Today, you're going to take that information, run it through one of the data brokers, and they're going to provide you a risk score. That risk score may be too low, might require manual review or out-of-wallet knowledge-based authentication questions. We're going to be able to tell you in seconds if you are who you say you are. I'm going to take this ID, which is a fancy-looking ID, from New York State. Can you folks see this? It's not switching to our document camera here. Fabulous New York State ID. We need to switch back here now. And you can see we scanned it. This scanner was able to illuminate the document in infrared, UV, visible light, grab the data from the barcode, grab the data from the mag stripe, and it's running as many as 77 different tests. It's a forensic examination, pixel by pixel by pixel by pixel. As you can see, it gave the user pretty quick response back. It said, wait a minute, this thing doesn't look like it is authentic. We may have a problem here. This technology is great when the document is in pristine condition. If the ID had been washed in the laundry 3 times this week or had chocolate covering a strategic portion, we're going to fail it because we can't read the security features that are there. That's a flaw. Nobody wants false positives. So AuthenticID is the first in the world to create this totally cloud-based solution that enables all failed documents to be re-examined by a professional document examiner. So you can see this is the examiner solution. We have a team of expert examiners up in New Hampshire that just got queued any failed document in real time. This is one we just scanned. Our examiner is able to pull up that document in real time. With special tools, they're able to see the tests that were performed. They're able to cross-check data between what was in the barcode and what was on the front of the document. As you can see, we've got a big mismatch here. The barcode has a Michael Leonardi. The front of it says there's a Margot Adams. So clearly he knows that this was a fraudulent document. The examiner is then able to post the result, mark it as failed, submit that, and now the user is able to see that result, a true definitive result of the authenticity of that document just seconds later. So if we go back into the user field, where is it? You can see this little 1 just popped up. So that result from the examiner just came back. The user is able to look at it and say, look, it really is a fake ID. The top one, Michael Leonardi, it's a failed result, and move on with the transaction. Catfish ID supports virtually every identity document on the globe. You can bring us passports from China, visas from Egypt, military cards from Saudi Arabia, Mexican matricular cards, or a simple driver's license from Indiana. Virtually every government-issued ID on the planet can be authenticated within 8 or 9 seconds, something nobody else on the globe can do. We have one more little trick in our bag, and that's the first product I was telling you about, Picture ID. Picture ID is a very different product. Only businesses in critical infrastructure in the United States and Canada will qualify for this because DHS has to approve you. If you're finally and ultimately approved, instead of hitting public record data sets, we're able to go directly to all the document issuers in the US and Canada, verify all the data that's on the front of an ID document. And that doesn't seem like much. Name, race, name, license number, date of birth, social security number, that's all easy information to buy. What you can't buy are things like hair color, eye color, weight, height, when you obtained your license. Replicating that information for a fraudster is pretty difficult. They're most likely not going to get that right. As you can see here, I decided to have a lot of fun, and the name on this ID is Jamie Dimon, Chairman, CEO of JP Morgan Chase. Did a lot of little hunting, was able to get all of his PII, and actually all the data on this ID matches. It's a very good quality ID. It bends just like normal. I've got a little UV light here so you can see that all the UV inks are in place. You can't see them under the light, huh? They are, I promise you, but all the UV inks are in place. This document would pass inspection from anybody in the world. You notice, though, that I put my picture on this ID. We're going to take this ID, put it into just an inexpensive scanner. This can also be manually entered. We're going to start that again. Okay. Come on. In the event of the scanner going down, we'll just type it in. Gods are coming to get me. I did have technical issues here. Give me just a second. So we've entered all the data from that ID, but instead of hitting public record data sources, I'm now going directly to the state of New York, checking all the data that's on the front of that document. Since I'm an unbelievable fraudster, this is an exceptional case. Normally, they're not going to get all the data right, but it actually passed inspection because all this information matches what's on file with the state of New York. However, as you can see, that picture that got returned from the state of New York doesn't look anything at all like the picture that was on the ID that was presented to the bank employee. It's very intuitive. It's easy for a teller or anybody else to see that this was fraud and stop the transaction dead in its tracks. That concludes our ability